Destroying life with sound. When the U.S. Navy blasts marine habitats with high-frequency sonar during training, mammals like dolphins and whales, which use sonar to navigate, are caught off guard. This is what can result. They're beached, many of them with painfully burst auditory canals. But that's just evidence on the surface. The Natural Resources Defense Council has taken the National Marine Fisheries Service to federal court for granting the Navy permission to train off the coast of California in this manner until 2018. The NRDC claims that the Fisheries Service violated the law by failing to properly assess what impact the known harming will have on the 60-plus marine mammal populations affected by the Navy's activities.
And you have the Fisheries Service saying, you know, it's a shrug of the shoulders, no additional added protections over the course of these last 10 years. There's nothing extra that the Fisheries Service says, maybe just a little bit more to drive down these numbers.
In the application process for training, the Navy must submit an environmental impact statement. According to its own numbers, training could cause more than 150 outright deaths, 2,000 permanent injuries, and nearly 10 million instances of temporary hearing loss and disruptions of behavior over a 5-year period.
You have animals abandoning feeding opportunities. Well, if that's happening thousands of times over the course of 5 years, there was simply no analysis. There was no discussion in their approval process of what that means for a marine mammal population that is endangered or otherwise struggling to survive.
The lack of discussion about mitigating this for endangered species like the blue whale was cause for environmentalist concern. What temporary hearing loss and disruptions of behavior means to these animals is that they're essentially swimming blind and cannot properly migrate, forage for food, mate, carry a fetus to term, or nurse young without interruption from deadly sonar.
I mean, what is the number at which that agency would wake up and say, wait a second, this is too much? Is it 20 million? Is it 30 million? At what point do we have to see an agency say, enough is enough, we're going to actually look at this seriously and do a real analysis of what these impacts to these populations are?
When called for comment on its impact, the Navy responded via email by stating that the permits the Navy requires to conduct at-sea training and testing can only be issued if our activities will have no more than a negligible impact on marine mammal populations. The Federal Marine Fisheries Service declined to comment, citing court proceedings.
The NRDC is explicit in its suit. Animal mortality does not trump our national security. However, it proposes certain time area restrictions be put into place so training can happen while avoiding certain migration corridors, breeding grounds, and feeding areas. At the same time, if national security calls for it, the commander of the Pacific Fleet can pull those restrictions and train wherever needed. It's these safety valves that keep us safe as well as the marine mammals.
When I think back about what amazing things that my grandfathers achieved during World War II, and they were a can-do, operation. It was take that island, take that hill, and I would hope that the Navy of my grandfathers would do more to try to solve this problem and say we can achieve our goals of protecting the American people, of giving all of the training necessary. It's not, we want to make sure that our sailors are not ever placed in harm's way, that they have all of the training necessary. But why can't we do that smartly?
In many cases, our last line of defense is the military, but for marine mammals, their last line of defense from us are the permit requirements necessary to do this training. In Los Angeles, Lindsay France, RT.